Hey, Ashley, I'm Evan. I'm the owner of parasites.org, and I help people with parasite testing and also bacterial testing and water testing and all the tests we do. And then we also have some cleansing products that can help people make some sort of a decision if it might be a good idea or not for them. They always got to talk with their doctors. But yeah, so I'm just here to kind of be a guide through the process because uh, not every doctor has a ton of experience with it. And so I'm just here to support people to do it in a safe and responsible way and support doctors or clinics with that as well. And but yeah, ultimately, I'm just trying to leverage my experience. Had have had the website probiotics.org since like 2009, since forever, and I've had my own digestive issues I've had to work through, and so I'm just trying to bring that experience and hopefully make my mentors look good with what they've taught me, and just help be a little guidepost through this process. And that's all, and sometimes these test results are really straightforward. It's like, oh, parasite came up, probably should take care of that. That could be causing issues. Talk with your doc, get the medications, or do a cleanse or whatever. But other times the results are pretty ambiguous, and so it's like we got to kind of go through a little health history and just ask about what they're eating and how long has it been happening and what was going on in their life at that time, and see if maybe we can find something. I mean, we can't always, but sometimes we can find, pretty much always we can find at least one little action item that people can ask their doctor about if it's appropriate to check out, or at least some little experiment they can do in their life where the odds of it having some sort of negative effect are almost nothing. Slight diet tweak or changing up how they sleep, something like
This
that.
is
So
this is your hour. Whatever you if you want me to do handstands, I'll do handstands. They aren't very pretty though. They aren't very pretty.
No, I was just wondering if you have any idea how these would relate to like food sensitivities or allergies, stuff like that. Do you notice uh, if you come back with some of this stuff, does that impact?
Well, it's hard to say. I'm not really that expert on that,
Okay,
and
yeah.
but like I can speculate a little tiny bit on how they might interact. And again, I haven't dug into the research, so I have to be, have to have that big caveat. So, and first off, I'm not a doctor or anything, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just here to like share information with you, and I encourage you to take that to your doctor. I encourage all your clients and viewers to take it to their doctor, or at the very least to heavily research it themselves, because although so the parasite testing process is safe, anyone can do that, they're not going to get in trouble as long as they don't drink the liquid, right? Like
Right.
that stuff's not for drinking or huff it or anything like that. Just don't, and if you get it on your skin, you want to wash it off. But as far as, but then doing some of the after stuff, like I'll tell you a cleanse protocol that I personally went through, and I'll also tell you about, like our supplement, the Freedom Cleanse Restore that we have, and I'll send you a sample of that, of course. And even though it's like really natural and like a lot of organic ingredients, really good stuff, 46 different herbs across the three different bottles, it's completely inappropriate sometimes, and people will get hurt. Now, the cases are, pretty specific, like when people are on like a warfarin, which is a blood thinning medication. Some of these herbs, and you can look up other cleansing protocols, if they're really responsible and well researched, they'll say that, hey, if you're on blood thinning medication, this can be an interaction, not like it's like a serious negative interaction.
Right.
So because it can throw off the balance of how much medication you need, and maybe make your blood too thin. And so that can be bad in my understanding. We want a certain viscosity of our blood. So, and then sometimes, and then I don't think it came up on your results, but we have an RBC under other observations, and that stands for occult red blood cells. And those can come up in the stool, and those are indicative of somewhere along the like kind of GI tract, probably the intestines, most likely. There's some sort of bleeding, and that can be something that's completely benign, like a hemorrhoid, or it can be something that's you know, very serious, I mean, even if it's not comfortable, or something that's very serious, like some sort of, you're bleeding for some reason in there, or, you know, maybe it has something to do with a stomach cancer or something. So that's one thing where I don't screw around and I say, hey, you need to go and figure out the cause of this. You need to go with your doctor. This isn't the time to like go on WebMD and research stuff. It's like, no, you go to your doctor. And if you don't have something really obvious like hemorrhoids, or someone's doing some sexual stuff, like if there's no really clear cause, you know, and I won't like, if someone wants me to kind of like handhold them through a cleanse, I won't do it if they come up with that, because
Right.
it's just not responsible, and they need to address that before working on the cleanse, probably, unless their doctor says it's okay, right?
Right.
So that's one of those things where yeah, so it's, you know, there isn't a ton of danger around here, but there is a little in some very specific situations. So, and then also when people are run down and stuff, they shouldn't be cleansing. But sorry, I went off on a
Oh no,
tangent about the
that's fine.
cleansing.
It's all good information.
But okay, so getting back, so sorry, what was your original question? I forgot it.
I was
didn't
just
write it.
asking like how some of this might impact like food sensitivity
Oh,
and stuff.
gotcha. Yeah, so the way it could interact, so I don't think it could help. Okay, it's probably not going to help. Is our parasites, you know, in the research, are they proven to be a contributing causal factor in allergies? I haven't come across that research, but maybe they could hurt. They can certainly mess with the integrity of the lining of our intestine, and then maybe we start to get a little too much of certain food particles passing through there. So if you've heard of like leaky gut, that's like kind of one thing like that. And same with taking antibiotics for a long time, or certain medications, they can also increase permeability. And so if there's too much permeability, then food particles can pass into the bloodstream, and that's not where food particles are supposed to be. Right? They're supposed to be broken down to a certain level and either excreted or digested, and different parts of our intestines will pull in different nutrients and stuff. So if it's not being pulled in the right form, then we can have like an immune system response, and our immune system kind of has to like clean that up. And so if we're, you know, so if you're doing something like that, then maybe you can develop an intolerance. I don't know about an allergy, but maybe an allergy as well. So that's where I would see like a potential intersection. But again, I wouldn't say like,
don't bank on that as,
yeah, and like I said, it's just not going to help. Like, it's not going to make things easier. And if we have a certain level of permeability in our intestines for a reason, we don't want to get beyond that.
right.
So, unless our body naturally wants it to. But if parasites are kind of burrowing in there causing problems, or if there's a bacterial infection or real serious candida infection, then yeah, I could see it in theory impacting it, but I don't have research to pull out and directly
That
connect
sounds
those
good. Yeah.
So yeah, not trying to be squirrely or anything, but
no, that's
all right.
that
So
makes
who should
sense.
get tested? So that's a really good question, and that's sort of up to the doctor and the individual. But I can tell you that the time that I most recently got tested was when I came back from Mexico, and I wasn't, this was like fall of 2021. So kind of the COVID shutdowns were waning, and I was able to go with some friends to Mexico, and we had a good time, and I was doing everything right. I didn't pick up anything. I didn't brush my teeth with the water down there. I used, bottled water, and I was making sure to drink plenty of alcohol to kill everything. But on the way back, in the airport, there was a Carl's Jr. in Mexico, okay, and in Cancun. And I was like, oh yeah, American company, like we're good to go. And so we all got a burger from this place, and it had like raw lettuce, and I assume it wasn't washed in the right, purified water or whatever. And so all three of us got sick by the end of that plane ride. And so that's why I took it, was because I had, and I was having issues, not just for like a week after, but for like, it kind of like calmed down, and then it got bad again for another week. So I was like, okay, this isn't just going away. So you could think of it like
maybe like a food poisoning that doesn't go away right away. You come back from camping and you're ingested some river water. That can be a very specific and good reason. When you have kind of digestive issues that don't seem to have a good reason behind them, so you can't really explain, oh, I went and I'm eating really healthy and I'm still having digestive issues. Or sometimes really heavy sugar cravings can sometimes be a sign of bugs. Not always. I mean, there can be a lot of reasons for blood sugar dysregulation, but it seems like a lot of people I talk to have very serious cravings. So I observe it like kind of clinically, not like
Right.
it's not necessarily in a research paper. So and then I do get a fair amount of people coming to me because they say, oh, I have like a skin parasite, because they'll have some sort of gnarly kind of little bit of skin that kind of resembles a worm a bit. And I'm not really, and I haven't seen that being a worm yet, but what it seems to have a high correlation with is I talk with a person and I say, okay, how long has this problem been going on? Oh, ever since I moved into my new house. Okay, when was that? Oh, that was 8 years ago. Okay. Does your house so where's the house? Oh, it's in North Carolina on a lake. Oh, so it's quite humid. Okay, so it always seems to be like a mold thing. Like, not always, but a decent percentage of the time. So it's kind of, so that's one where it's useful to take the test so you can talk to me, because I'm available for everyone to go over the test results with. Not everyone takes advantage of it, but I spend, I don't know, 20 minutes on average, but a lot of people, we spend longer and we go a little deeper. So yeah, so it's hard to say the exact reasons, but digestive symptoms are kind of the classic, but there are some other symptoms more like chronic fatigue. But again, how many things can cause chronic fatigue?
You're
like,
right.
So it's like, oh, well, you just went through a period. Okay, so like for me, I was eating terribly during lockdowns and I was really depressed because I'm highly extroverted. I like to be around people and I couldn't. Even just going to the grocery store is like a little like extroverted opportunity for me. For I could talk to the cashier or something, right? Certainly wasn't going to any parties or anything. And then so I'm eating bad. I'm really unhappy and stressed, depressed. And so now I'm kind of in this funk and I'm fatigued all the time. And, does it mean I picked up a bug? I mean, no, I mean, in that case, it seems more like I was just stressed and taking poor care of myself and wasn't exercising much, sitting around playing video games, my sleep was screwed up. So yeah, so as much as, so it's kind of but as a general rule, so the main parasitologist at the lab, Dr. Omar Amin, he sort of has observed over his career that people who are kind of more vital and energetic and healthier, they tend to be less likely to have parasites. People who are a little more beaten down, presumably their immune system isn't working as efficiently as it could be, or it's a little compromised, or they're a little stressed. Those people are a little more likely to have parasites. So.
Okay, so like I'm thinking of like the digestive side of things. Like people who have, say, like IBS with no really known cause, maybe
idiopathic or whatever. Yeah.
To check it out just to rule that it could improve your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that can be a case where it makes sense. Yeah, there's some like so I've seen it both in like, so this, for a while I thought that if you were constipated you didn't have parasites, because I always thought parasites seemed to make people be more diarrhea, because that was all the people I was encountering. But then I felt, I had egg on my face because I told this guy, I was like, hey man, there's no way you have parasites, save your money. And then he took it anyway, and he had this Entamoeba hystralica, and I was like, well, all right, that's my humble pie I get to eat. So yeah, it's tricky. It's not as simple, and it's hard to describe like just in a quick conversation with someone. Oh, I have. So since then I've kind of stopped. I've been a little more humble and stopped trying to tell people what they're going to have or not have. Now, when people have diarrhea, then I'm a little more leaning towards, some sort of parasite, candida, or bacteria thing going on. Yeah, I typically, when people have when they're not specifically suspecting parasites and they just have general digestive stuff going on, I mean, that could be, so there's, gosh, what's his name? Dan Kalish, I think. Dan Kalish? Something Kalish. He says something to the effect of, and I'm probably butchering his quote, that clients are allowed to have more than one thing wrong at any one time. So just because you take this parasite test and candida test and gut health markers test, and you have a parasite going on, that doesn't mean you don't also have a bacterial thing going on, or a, fungus thing, or some sort of intestinal bleeding, or some signs of maldigestion with, like, we're finding fatty acids in your stool at an excess level. So it just really, yeah. So it's kind of depends. So did I address that question okay?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, so just from like my personal experience, I feel like doctors I've gone to are like, no, don't, like, some people just have issues, don't bother with it.
Sure.
I'm kind of getting the feeling that you're saying, like, well, it might still be a good idea to do it, and then you can bring that information back, because sometimes doctors don't want to order like excessive testing. So
yeah, or I mean, I don't know, like I really like, not sympathize, but I agree with what the doctors are saying, that, like, generally, like, in my experience, I don't think parasites are the problem. Parasites are a symptom of the problem, generally speaking. I mean, absolutely, you can go and catch one acutely, even if you're doing everything right health-wise. But a lot of times there's somewhere that we're faltering, normally a couple places, that puts us in a place where we can then be a good host to the parasite. And everybody wants to be a good, party host or dinner host. But if you can avoid it, it'd be good to avoid being a good parasite or bacteria or yeast host. So it's like, it's often just as important to understand, like, why did we become a host to them? And then, gosh, I feel all over the place at the moment. So, but I agree with the doctors in the sense that, hey, doctors are trying to prioritize what's the most important thing. Is a parasite infection going to kill you? Probably not. Right. Almost no parasite is directly going to kill you. Now, can it become a real drain on your quality of life, on your vitality, on your nutrients? Can it make things harder in your life? Absolutely. And is it something that would probably need to be addressed in order to get to maximum health again? For sure. That being said, we have a lot fewer parasites compared to, 150 years ago or something like that. So there's the, racist stereotype of the lazy white guy in the South. Okay. And, I'm probably going to get canceled for saying this, but there is, like, that stereotype that exists. And one presumption is that it was caused by a lot of people being infected by hookworms. And so they're infected when they're very, very young. And that thing can actually knock IQ points off over the course if someone has an infection that isn't resolved. So, because it's just kind of sucking all that nutrition out over time. And so it's a parasite, right? It's an insidious thing. Parasites don't want to quickly kill us. They want us to be good hosts for them.
Right.
So
that makes sense. I feel like we've covered quite a few of, like, the different signs of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
about just different things to watch for, and
definitely
orders to things. So let's say you feel off, you have weird digestive things, you decide to get tested. I feel like we're kind of steps that we should take to try and recover this, whether it be naturally, or, I mean, if it's super severe, probably go in, bring results to your doctor. Well,
absolutely,
to check it out. But
yeah, if that's a naturopath or a chiropractor or whoever you're working with that has, at least some openness and hopefully some experience, ideally, with this sort of thing. So that's a person I would trust personally, in the ideal case. And there's lots of crazy diets out there. There's some crazy stuff. I mean, this is the internet. This is 2022. We've been making crazy internet content for a good 20 years, right? And if you want to look up some cleanse diets, there's some really sane stuff, and there's some really counterproductive stuff. So I tend to think of it like a multifaceted campaign is how I think of it. So I say, okay, if I have a parasite, so it's kind of like, generally speaking, what am I doing to be a good host to these parasites? So in my opinion, it comes down to 3 or 4 things. So thing number 1 is my immune system's weak. So do you know one component of the AIDS cocktail? When people have AIDS and the cocktail that allows them to live, pretty full life.
I don't.
It's an anti-parasitic, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because we have these white blood cells that eosinophil cells, and they help fight off parasitic infections like worms and stuff. So what can we do to support our immune system? So that's like, okay, managing stress, maybe throw some magnesium in there. Sleep. I mean, there's no replacing sleep. If your circadian rhythm is way off, then, have fun with that. No, but I mean, through no fault of their own, sometimes people get in this situation. Like I was talking with one client, and she had like some serious pain, and I won't go into reasons why, but she has this kind of chronic pain, and it's hard for her to sleep. So it's kind of like, okay, sleep isn't that reliable, so we got to figure out some ways to get her out of pain so she can sleep better. But okay, getting out of the specifics, so what can we do to support our immune system? So it's like, all right, are we eating our minerals? Are we eating our vitamins? Are we eating our veggies, man? Are we supporting our microbiome? Maybe supplementing, but are we eating foods that are going to feed our good guys? Are we getting enough cholesterol, fat, carbohydrates, protein for our unique needs? And it's not a one size fits all program. Different people at different points in their life need different amount of things. Like yesterday, I went and deadlifted, and then did some squats, and then did some mid cable pulls, and then did some push-ups on a Swiss ball while doing some pikes. So it's like, so that was, over an hour workout. So after that, I'm going to need a lot of meat flesh protein, and I'm going to need a lot of carbs to support me. Now, if I'm sitting in the office all day, then I don't get to eat those carbs because I don't need them to replenish me. So in the same way, different people need different amounts of flesh and vegetable protein. And I'm all for, hey, if vegan works great for someone and they're living their best life, great. If someone's eating carnivore and it works well, great. But it's they want to eat in a way to support their immune system, so they're resistant to these guys, and they have that kind of line of defense. So that's one part of it. Next part of it, I would say, is what are we eating things that feed bugs? So are we drinking lots of alcohol? They love that that metabolizes into something resembling sugar very quickly. Are people eating Ben and Jerry's? That's my favorite vice. Are people eating processed food? Are they eating things that they're allergic to and that are inappropriate for them at this point? So all those kind of things are going to open us up a bit more if we're feeding those bugs. So that's sort of like the second component. And then the third component, and this is where most people skip to, is taking either some sort of herbs or some sort of medication. And I have no problem with any sort of herbs or medications, when they're prescribed in a responsible way, and the side effects are taken into account, and you're making that choice and you can afford it, and great, right? Take that medication or take those herbs. But so anyway, so that's sort of, you're directly killing them now. And a lot of people, they skip I need to make myself strong, my immune system strong, and they skip I need to stop feeding the bugs, and they go straight to the killing. So it's sort of like, I don't know, Vietnam. I don't think you're a military person, but I can tell you that in Vietnam, we dropped an immense amount of bombs on it, like more than in World War II, is my understanding. And it didn't help us, quote unquote, win the war, because they were able to sort of build up bunkers or avoid the bombs, or the bombs weren't hitting the right places. So you can't just or like the shock and awe in Iraq, where we just went and we bombed a bunch of stuff. We had to bomb, and then later we figured out we had to have sort of build up the immune system there to support the local. Well, we had to support the local immune system, which was the local populace. And when we made good relationships with them, they would help us get the foreign fighters out. And you can't just bomb everything and fix every problem that way. Right. So it's like, I mean, bombs have their place, but okay, what are we doing to support our own, immune system? What are we doing to starve them out?
Right.
And make them weaker. So, and then there's kind of a fourth component, which maybe it's related to the immune system, but I just see a lot of people I talk with them and they have just mold problems in their house. And that's not everyone and not in every climate, but it's some sort of environmental type thing, like they're breathing in fumes. I had one guy that was working with agricultural chemicals without using proper PPE, so without using gloves and stuff. And it's like, okay, like, don't worry about this parasite. Let's first start using the PPE so you can avoid absorbing these chemicals, because I don't know, I haven't worked with them, but it's probably not going to be doing anything positive.
Right.
So it's sort of like you can add, I don't know, kind of an environmental exposure part to that. And then there's, you can put movement in you can put movement in different categories, but doing at least that bare minimum of, say, walking an hour 5 days a week or some equivalent amount of exercise, that just helps keep things moving, and that seems to support energy and immune system and vitality, which seems to be, like I was saying, Dr. Marmon was saying that people who seem to be a little higher vitality, they tend to be more resistant compared to people who are a little sicker, a little lower vitality. So, and it's like, and it's kind of like any predator, what's the advice if you're like a physically smaller woman walking in the night on a dangerous street? It's like you walk straight with a purpose and you pay attention. You don't kind of like amble along and look like an easy target. You go like, and I mean, it's not a perfect defense, but it's at least something. So it's like predators and parasites, they want easy targets. They don't want to work hard. So it's like, what are you doing to make yourself an easy target? So, sorry, I don't mean to lecture so long, but
I think that's good.
That's my philosophy. I mean, I can't pull up a research paper and directly support that, but I can tell you that our immune system's involved. I can tell you that you don't want to feed the bear, and I can tell you that you can destroy these things with medications and herbs, but are they going to come back? Did you sort of make them put their heads down and kind of go into, some sort of, they're hiding under some biofilm, or they're in some crevice next to some organ hiding in the brown fat? I mean, I don't know. It's really complicated. You'd have to do crazy imaging. I don't even know if we have the technology to see that sort of stuff. But it seems like they can do really tricky things, and parasites have co-evolved with us. So as clever as our immune system is, they're just pretty much just as clever because they're still around. So it's like, what are we doing? But we can resist them, but and we can defeat them, but if they got a little opening, they're going to take it.
Right.
Potentially.
So I guess as you say that, does it seem like, okay, we change over and we're trying to eat healthy and exercise, everything else, and then say Christmas and New Year's and all of the holidays come around?
Sure.
Does it seem like having a few kind of,
it's an 80-20 thing,
step away from it? Yeah. So it's not like, oh, I had a week of bad eating and I'm suddenly just going to be overrun with.
Well, sorry to say this answer, but it depends, right? So are you someone who has multiple issues going on? Like, are you in bad shape? Are you, do you have some sort of, I don't know, cancer or something like that? And you're in the fight of your life? That's not really the time to go off the program. Then we're out of that 80-20.
Right.
But if you are pretty much healthy, then you can probably get away with it. But you want to be careful. It's
ideally you stay on it all the time. It's just
yeah, but I mean, look, we got to live, and you can't be a hermit for too long, or that has other negative effects that are going to hurt your immune system and make you hate your life, and then you're going to become less disciplined. And so it's like you can't go all the way forever on these things.
Right.
And it's also just it's just too stressful. So it's like, you want to work with someone and you want to try and do the most important things, and then once you've gotten a bit stronger, then you have a little more room to wiggle. But if you're real chronic fatigued and you have a lot of gnarly stuff going on, your energy's terrible, well, you probably don't want to jump off the wagon until you've moved up a couple notches.
Right. No, that makes
so that's my personal opinion, but everyone's situation is different, and they got to work with their doctors, they got to work with their nutritionists or whoever their medical team is, and just proceed as it makes sense in that individual case. So, but yeah, generally it's not like, oh, I ate a cake, I'm going to catch a parasite.
Right. Right.
It's I know, I don't think you were asking that question, but as an extreme example.
Right. No, that's a good.
But yeah,
if you're like, after you've taken steps to try and, like you said, be a less easy target or a harder target to get, would you recommend retesting just to kind of see how you progress, or just kind of leave it unless you have more issues come up again?
It a little bit depends on the financial situation in that case. Normally for the public it's $245, and so I mean, how much room do you have in your budget? Some people that's nothing, some people that's they need to save for months for that. And so it's like, so if financially you're in a situation where you can just retest aggressively and it's not a big drain on your budget, great. Yeah, I would say, so for me, let's say I got the initial test, then I did a treatment to check and see treatment to get rid of it. Let's say I'm feeling better. I'd wait 2 to 6 weeks after the treatment, and then I'd retest.
Okay.
You'll hear different opinions. Some people say just 2 weeks is enough for them to kind of come back and to see their presence again. I lean a little more towards the 6 weeks. So it just sort of depends what kind of advice. Now, if someone's in a more limited financial situation, then I'd probably look more towards my symptoms, and I would probably I'd probably stay a little tighter on the path for longer to try and make sure that I don't need to go back and buy, because the cleanse is like, it retails at $130 a month, right? I mean, I give deals to people, who've tested with me previously, and I give discounts when people order multiple months. But because I want them to do kind of a more full program instead of a half measure.
Right.
And so the full program's more like 90 days than 30 days. So yeah, so it just depends on the situation. But yeah, if you're super strapped, then I'd rely a little more on the symptoms and vitality, because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, do you feel awesome? Is your mood different? Is your skin better? Is your body shape different? Are your eyes clearer? Are you thinking more clearly? Are you less volatile emotionally? Those are all kind of some signs that those people can be affected on any of those axes. You might be the same weight, but you lose like water weight, and so your body shape's better. So it's just tricky. Everyone's a little different and kind of responds differently to these things. So, it might be like, things under your eyes, like the bags under your eyes go away or get way smaller. I mean, it could be just a million different ways to sort of notice that, oh, looks like something's working,
Right.
either as an early or later indicator in the process. So
no, that sounds very good.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
I guess that was kind of, I feel like we covered a lot of like the basic questions just for general knowledge.
Good. Kind of get like a little bit of a, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I try and understand like where people, like how they came to take this test. So even whatever it's showing, I'll kind of be like, unless it's something like real bad, I'll be like, hey, so, why'd you take the test?
Right.
Oh, I took the test because this like lady emailed me begging me to review the test. No, because I've been feeling bad, and I went and did an endoscopy and a colonoscopy and blood work, and my doctors say it's hot, everything's fine, but I have a little bit elevated of the white blood cells associated with parasite infections. So I decided to take this test, and even though my doctor told me, or my doctor didn't want to do it, couldn't convince them to do it through their lab, so I just came to you. So that'll be like a pretty common one, that the reason that people will come for. And yeah, and then I'll, if like nothing, like for example, if you had something going on, like I wouldn't necessarily, like you didn't get any of the super obvious baddies. Like you didn't get like a cryptosporidium type thing or tapeworm. So like a larval nematode came up on you. So that one can be a bit ambiguous, and it's a very light presence. It's a 1 out of 4. 3 or 4 would be a heavy infection of a larval nematode. So that one is more likely to be symptomatic, but a 1 or a 2 is much less likely to be symptomatic. So, if someone's having symptoms, I'm kind of like, I don't tell them not, like people get kind of confused if I say like, so I'm doing a bad job of explaining it, obviously, because people are getting confused, but I'll kind of say, this isn't typically symptomatic. And then they'll take that, like I'll say, well, it's nothing. It means everything's fine. And then they'll go to the doctor, and the doctor will freak out, or not freak out, but the doctor will be concerned. And so I kind of get, again, I'm not trying to tell people like what to do or how to feel about it, but generally this is a more asymptomatic level. So the larval nematode's tricky because it can be any number of roundworms. It's a baby, so it doesn't have its sex organs yet. So it could be something that can only infect a pig, because these parasites co-evolve very closely with the species they infect. Other roundworms, they can infect multiple species. Like maybe you can catch something from your pets if you have pets. So it sort of depends. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a positive thing, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it a super bad thing. It just sort of depends.
Probably about the same. I don't feel like I really noticed. I probably had more prone to like constipation or something, but
sure.
And it wasn't like,
yeah, but it really,
I would go in for.
So it really started to kick in after like 2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, some of that could have been.
Did your diet change around then?
Probably healthier, realistically, but.
What does that mean?
I mean, we probably subsisted mostly on like pizza in college because you could get that free at meetings and stuff.
Nice.
And probably a lot less drinking after I was out of college.
Yeah. Classic.
I mean, the only other factor, like outside of food and stuff, would be the job I had from 2013 until about 2018 was, I would consider, very high stress.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's
stress can really impact a lot of that stuff, but it almost seemed like some of the stuff got worse after I left that job.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, so that can be how are the lockdowns for you?
I mean, surprisingly not bad, but
some people loved them. I mean, I didn't like them, but a lot of people enjoyed it.
It was still like we could still go outside and stuff because we're in a more suburban kind of area. And
cool.
Like for us, my husband used to work out of town, so COVID allowed him to be home.
Nice.
I guess could be stress in itself too.
Oh, sure. Well, it depends, yes. Depends. Okay, but yeah, I mean, 5 years of grinding a stressful job, that's one of these things where it's like just, taking away a little bit of vitality over time, potentially, if you're not able to replenish it or something like that. So, But then, then we got that bug in 2017. Yeah, he caught some sort of bug, some acute thing. So, yeah, I mean, when I work with clients, I'm typically doing this test along with bacteria. I do my best, unless they're really strapped for cash and they're really insistent that we test for parasites. I try not to do them apart.
Right.
Because I'm just curious and we'll do the bacterial swab. We'll see what comes up. But okay. So what are you eating?
I mean, we do
What'd you eat? What'd you eat for breakfast?
oatmeal,
Okay.
not instant oatmeal.
Okay.
Homemade.
All right. Anything else?
I had tea with a little bit of milk, but otherwise pretty plain.
Okay.
A lot of my diet.
Is there like butter or anything in there, or
uh,
just straight oatmeal and
yeah,
water?
yeah. But typically I do eat quite a bit of dairy.
Yeah, I mean,
But
depends on
otherwise,
that.
like,
That can work fine for everyone. For some people, and terrible for others. So
otherwise, I know I said oatmeal, but like otherwise, I don't usually do a lot of like grains. It's usually like beef, chicken with like stir fries or
but
so like a lot of, I don't know, kind of Mediterranean, but maybe more heavy on like beef than you would in a traditional.
for breakfast or
No, like just for general diet wise.
oh well, let's just make it real specific to today. What'd you eat for lunch?
I have not had lunch yet.
Okay, no, okay. What'd you have yesterday for lunch?
Yesterday I had fajitas, so like peppers with steak and then cheese in a taco shell.
Okay. And then I won't. My mentor, she lectures on female hormone stuff. We can talk about your menstrual cycles next
Did
time.
have
But
some cake last night, so
those parasites, they're happening. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
that's
I'm
my
kidding.
downfall.
No, don't. It's there
Mm,
can be, you can eat anything, but you can't eat everything. It's
right.
kind of the rule. So, um, interesting. Okay, so what kind of exercise did you do in the last 24 hours?
Last 24 hours, I went for an hour walk yesterday.
Okay.
Haven't gone yet today. I mean, that's definitely an area I could improve on, but we usually go for walks every day. But
Yeah, I'm not trying to like. I'm just trying to
no,
see
I
like
just like, yeah,
Okay, and then so you said you had constipation slash diarrhea. Are they equal? Are they?
probably more towards the constipation side, but it kind of I mean, it does flip periodically.
Gotcha.
And that
Then,
could be somewhat related, like you were saying, to the hormones, because it probably does line up with that a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I'm not, given what you're eating, I'm not too worried about. I mean, it seems like you got a lot of the raw ingredients for hormones. Yeah, the only thing, so I think if you're kind of more constipated and less diarrhea, then I'm not. So when people are like real diarrhea-y, I don't like them to eat too much raw veggies.
Right.
So like a kale salad would be a no-no if someone has a bunch of
Right.
diarrhea. But if you're more constipated, then it's probably fine. Yeah, how do you do when have you tried cutting out cheese? What did that do?
I did do that. I cut out all dairy for 2 months, I
So
think.
I'm fine with, given that you're more constipated. I don't have any, I think, and you've tried with and without dairy, it seems to be pretty similar. It doesn't seem to be the key thing. I'm not a big fan of a pure oatmeal breakfast.
Yeah.
So okay, so here's what I like about it. It's quick,
Right.
it's warm, it's tasty. I like all those things. But if I were gonna have oatmeal, and I don't really eat oatmeal, but if I were gonna have it, I would have some like eggs with it.
Right.
So that, sorry, go ahead.
There's something that I don't do eggs or any kind of gluten wheat product.
So oatmeal can have a little bit of that in there.
Right. We do like gluten-free oats, whatever, and it seemed like
How? Okay, how's it gluten free?
they make sure they're not grown within a certain distance of any of like the wheat, barley, whatever. but I could see oats still have, like, I think that's what you're saying, is they can still contain.
That's mine. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's my understanding is they have like a little bit in there. And there's some like steel cut, and those are supposed to like be better somehow. I don't know, but it all seems like smoke and mirrors to me. And that there's like some, if you shouldn't be having gluten, then I wouldn't be eating oatmeal.
Okay.
But that being said, what do you eat instead? What do you think?
I mean, a lot of times I try to just skip breakfast food and go to like have a normal meal, so to speak, of like, I don't know what, like lasagna or something instead
Oh,
of,
okay.
you know, like just skip
Sure.
breakfast altogether. Or do like, we'll do like a kefir smoothie or something some days.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I'm always looking when I'm looking at people's what they're eating, I'm kind of like, okay, so what is their protein? Is there fat? Is there carbs? And I want all three of those every meal and snack, ideally. So just with the oatmeal, I just see carbs.
Right.
And not to mention that there may be some trace of
Right.
gluten in there. You'd have to research it deeper yourself. But yeah, so if you could add, I don't know, and there's kind of a fourth food group, I think it's fiber. So it's like there's some fiber in the oatmeal, but
right.
I'm sorry.
I said, but there could be more you could add.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of as an experiment. Yeah, this is interesting. Well, here, anyways, that's like I've kind of said enough about the food stuff. It's just it seems like you're mostly hitting the. I mean, you might be the taco shell. That's probably corn, right?
Yeah.
So that probably will have enough carbs in there. The hamburger bun, and then okay, the cake. So we're good on carbs there. And then it was with cheese, right?
Yes.
So you got fat there. So yeah, so I'd kind of lean more towards like if you could improve that breakfast in terms of the protein, carb, and fat, then that might be something that kind of like sets your blood sugar and your hormones, everything up for like an awesome day. I'm not saying don't eat oatmeal, but at a minimum, I would add like butter or something like that to it if butter works for you. You know, I have this like nice Kerrygold. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's like my favorite butter. And then otherwise you could have either some sort of like bacon. I know eggs don't work for you. Said eggs don't work for you, right?
Right.
Okay, so not eggs, but bacon, a piece of leftover meat from the night before. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to have like a giant hamburger, but you know, not everybody likes to eat a ton in the morning. That's fine. But just so you have everything there at least. So
no, that makes sense.
But and again, I don't mean to pick on just maybe you eat differently other 24-hour periods, but I'm not trying to say this is representative.
Not ideal, yeah.
yeah, and but just I would just keep that in mind. So personally, and see if that makes a difference over time. And then I would definitely want to do the bacterial swab with you. And then, so here's the thing with eating the cake is that do you have okay, sorry, I don't mean to get so private. You can totally cut this out. Do you have like yeast infections ever?
I haven't, and like not in several years. So
okay. All right, so maybe the candida is being kept at bay. But that being said, I'd be careful with, you know, alcohol, fruit, grains and stuff, overdoing those because maybe the candida could bloom.
Right.
Larval nematode, you know, could be something, could not be something. It's hard to say, but do you drink tap water?
Yes.
So we've done some very limited testing. It's not statistically valid in terms of like representative sample of the USA, but you know, we sometimes in municipal water supplies, in well water, we see larval nematodes come up. Okay. So it could be something. I mean, probably not in the water, but well, I don't know. I don't have good statistics. It seems like it's more than it would be expected, but
right.
So that could be one source. Do you have pets?
Not in our house, but we have family we visit regularly that has pets. So
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just wash my hands after I played with the pets, and
right.
yeah, it's a roundworm. And so potentially a larval nematode could be around, a pinworm type thing. So when people have families with small children, then that's a little more likely to be in the mix, just because those spread like wildfire through daycare or through kindergarten, stuff like that. So
That makes sense.
so theoretically, again, I'm just trying to kind of get around my arms around this, but and then if you were my sort of coaching client, then we would do this for 7 days. You'd write down what you ate, when you ate it for 7 days, and then we'd look at your sleep log too. And because in the long term, there's nothing that really replaces sleep.
Right.
The medium to long term, and the short term, even, it makes a big difference. So I understand it's difficult being a parent and working and stuff, but you're the sun upon which and you give light to your whole family. So
Right.
we need that sun strong.
No, that makes sense. So just based on that, I mean, besides trying to eat, obviously room for improvement with eating.
Yeah, that'd probably have the largest effect on blood sugar, is what it'd have. And then, sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, so like, I guess with the blood sugar, you're basically trying to avoid like spikes and valleys, sort of.
Yep.
What I'm getting from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just less stressful on your body, and then if you'll be a little more insulin sensitive in theory if you're not eating it quite like that. I believe you'd be less insulin sensitive. I could be wrong on that. You can always reset that by going and doing exercise, but to some degree. But so that we show, so a little larval nematode, little candida, the bacteria score. So that's like on a bell curve. So you want a 3 is optimum, 2 is not quite optimum, a 1 is definitely deficient, a 0 is negative. I've seen that before. And then a 4 is overgrown. It's too much. So it's kind of a Goldilocks situation. So yeah, so that doesn't surprise me, given that there's some like kind of disturbance going on in your intestinal tract. So it could be a competition for ecological space in your guts. So they're getting out competed, kind of thing, or sometimes people supplement probiotics. It's really easy to like look at this number and over index on it, like over. So it could be a lot of different things. Undigested tissue, though, that's like something's not getting fully digested. So that could be, low enzymes. That's kind of a general recommendation that can go along with that. That's not appropriate for everyone, because enzymes can be a little bit like, if someone has bleeding ulcers,
Right.
they want to be extremely careful with enzymes or HCl, digestive aids. It can cause big problems. But if someone doesn't have that, enzymes are probably fine. Got to work with your doctor on that. But then another big part of it is when people have dental issues and they can't chew very thoroughly, then they can show up with undigested tissue because they're not masticating very well. So do you have anything like that, or?
No,
Your teeth are okay?
Yeah.
So another thing it could be is just, your super mom on the go, and
Paying attention.
not taking the time to chew.
Right.
And so we just want to, just like we don't want to jump into thing, we want to, before we exercise, we want to warm up a bit. In the same way, we want to sort of, in the ideal case, we're going to cook our own food. We're going to be smelling that food. We're going to be looking at it, and then we eat it. And we're eating it in the company of friends in a relaxed way. And our digestion is going to be a little bit better then. Now, that's not always possible, but at the very least, we can really work hard to masticate all the way, and probably don't want to eat during like a stressful lunch meeting. Probably don't want to eat during work, and ideally that's kind of a little time we set apart. I mean, that's the ideal. I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but And it's not one of those things that's going to make the biggest difference in the world in one single day, but over weeks, months, years. I mean, now you're getting more. I don't know if you like to get more for your money, but like you're digesting a little bit more of your money of your food. Now you're getting a little more for your money if you're masticating it. And because you're a mechanical engineer, I can talk to you in nerdy ways. And so the ratio of surface area to volume gets much higher the smaller the particle is.
Right.
So when you chew things down to a really small and fine thing, and also our saliva can help a little bit in the digestive process of some things, but not too. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but really it's the surface area to volume ratio. And just like those, for our less scientific viewers, when you have snow piled up on the side of the road, and then you have snow that wasn't disturbed sitting on a road or on a field, that undisturbed, unpiled up snow will melt much faster compared to the piled up. And again, that's like a surface area to volume ratio kind of thing. And biological cells are relatively kind of, I mean, they're a three-dimensional thing, but they're kind of like almost like flat pancakes to a large degree. And that really has like good surface area to volume ratios so they can have good exchange with the environment. So in the same way, you want that hydrochloric acid, you want those enzymes, you want that bile to be able to get in all the nooks and crannies of all the food. And if we kind of take small bites, or if we just chew a little tiny bit and we have these big chunks, then the chemistry or the rate of interaction or whatever you want to call it gets less favorable. And so that's something that can come up when people have undigested tissue. Again, it could be like, there's a bug in there causing problems, and that could also compromise it. But everyone has most people have some control over how well they chew.
Right.
And can maybe prioritize it slightly more at least. Like all this, in an ideal case, I won't be watching a movie or anything. I won't be watching my iPhone. I won't be texting. Maybe I'll be listening to like a nice video documentary like on YouTube. I'll listen to that, but not watch it. Right. And something about your eyes just uses a lot of energy, I guess. So I'll listen to maybe a podcast that's not stressful or relaxing. So something like that. So anyways, so I don't have anything super obvious for you to change that'll magically fix everything. Well, is there anything else you want to cover? But yeah, I always try and give like one goal when, if someone's like into it and they want to call and go over the results, I always try and help people arrive at something that's worth asking their doctor about or researching further. So like, for instance, with you, your action item would be like, hey, maybe try a slightly different breakfast. Right. Or like adding in some protein or fat and see if that helps. Again, it might not. It might be a bad thing, but just at least give someone like an experiment that should be really safe. And if there's any risk of it, they should just go to their doctor and talk with them. But if you were to add a piece of meat and some butter, I mean, for a week, I can't imagine that
it would be a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah, since you're eating those, you're eating other dairy and other meat in other meals, and you're doing fine with that. So I don't think it would necessarily cause any issues. But yeah, I'm curious how the bacteria swallow. But yeah, anything else you want to go over? Or
I can't really think of other questions right now. I feel like you did a very good job explaining a lot of the different items and steps you can take. Like I said, I think like the only thing left would be if someone has to follow up with the doc, like bring this printout when you go to the doc.
Yeah, you just bring it to the doc, and they might not know how to read it. So hopefully I've done a good job explaining how to read it.
Right. No,
because it's not like, because you just have to know, if it has a number next to it, it's something.
Right.
If it doesn't, then, because some people, they look at it and they say, and we're just showing, we looked at like 30 to 31 parasites. Some people are like, I have 31 parasites because they're all listed on there. And it's like, no, sorry, no. Just with the numbers, So that's one thing that happens a lot. But yeah, so cool.